Welcome to this session on Salesforce interview question and answer. In this session, we are going to cover frequently asked interview question, which are asked on a Salesforce. So let us start and let's go to the question number 1. What is Salesforce? So Salesforce is a cloud-based software company, and it provides software as a service platform that's specialized into customer relationship management. So what is customer relationship management? So customer relationship management is the database of every company's customer, where they store the data of different customers, and periodically they use that data to predict their sales and predict their growth. So apart from that, Salesforce provide different services such as software as a services. Software as a services is what you can directly obtain the built-in software and make use of it. So that is called as a software as a service. Second one is platform as a service. This will offer framework and platform to build your own website and application. And the third and the last one is infrastructure as a service. So this plays vital role in a Salesforce development, and it is rarely used. It's not frequently used by any of the organization, right? And Salesforce is based on a multi-tenant architecture. That means multiple clients are using single instance of the Salesforce, and they shared the resources within themselves, and this makes it the cost effective, right? So if there is a single tenant and the company is bearing the cost, so that will be a very high. So that's why Salesforce is affordable and provide the multi-tenant architecture, right? And Salesforce also provide different APIs so that it can be connected with the different services and different application outside the Salesforce, so that it can run smoothly along with those applications as well, right? So next, let's move to the next question. What are the triggers in Salesforce? So trigger is an Apex script or Apex code that execute before or after data manipulation language, right? So Apex triggers enables you to perform custom actions before or after events to the records which are available in a Salesforce, such as insertion, update, or deletion of the record, right? So next question, go to the next question. What are the different types of Apex triggers available in Salesforce? So this is the next question, and triggers are divided into 2 types. Okay, so there are 2 different types of triggers available in Salesforce. One is before trigger and after trigger. Second one is after trigger. So before trigger, these triggers are used to update or validate values of records before they saved on the Salesforce database. And what is after trigger? So these triggers are used to access field values of the record that are stored in the database and use this value to make changes in the other records, right? So this is the main difference between before and after trigger. Okay, so let's move to the next question. Yeah, so what are the governor limits in Salesforce? So in Salesforce, a governor limit controls how much data or how many records one organization or one client can store in the shared database. So as we discussed earlier, Salesforce is based on a multi-tenant architecture where multiple clients are sharing same resource or same instance. Okay, so that's why governor limit is required, right? Yeah. In a simpler word, you can say that Salesforce uses a single database to store the data of the multiple client or a customer. To make sure no single client or no single customer use all the shared resources which are allocated uh, uh, between different clients or customers. So Salesforce introduced this concept of governor limit, which is strictly enforced by the Apex runtime engine. So this controls the organization if they are using the resources, and it will allow other organization also to share that resource which is shared within multiple organization. What are the governor limits in Salesforce? So there are 7 governor limits available. First one is per transaction apex limit. Second one is force.com platform apex limit. Third one is static apex limit. Fourth one is size specific apex limit. Fifth one is miscellaneous apex limit. Sixth one is email limits. And seventh one is push notification limits. So on all these actions, limits are present. And to avoid a governor limit, from the developer's perspective, it is very important to ensure that their code should be scaled and should not hit the governor limit. So it is very important to follow some of the best practices which are suggested by the Salesforce. So the first one is you can bulkify your code. Avoid SQL queries or DML statement inside for loops, right? So bulkify your helper methods, which you are going to use in your Apex code. Use the collection, streamlining the queries and efficient for loops, right? So, and there are many other best practices which are available to avoid hitting the governor limits. So these are some guidelines for a developer to avoid hitting the existing governor limit, which are allowed. Right. So next question is, what is the difference between SOQL and SOSL? So SOQL is nothing but Salesforce object query language, right? It will search for one object only, and this will search all types of fields. I mean, you can search all types of fields using SOQL language. Data manipulation language operation can be performed on the query result. Means, for example, if you want to update any search result data record, you can do that. You can edit that, or you can delete that particular record using Salesforce object query language. Along with that, it can be used in classes and triggers. SOQL use when we know in which object or fields the data resides. So if you are aware about if your data is present in any particular object or any particular field, then you can use SOQL and you can get the result, right? We can retrieve data from a single object or multiple objects that are related to each other using SOQL. Right? Now, what is SOSL? So SOSL is Salesforce Object Search Language. It will allow you to search for a multiple objects in the database. SOSL can query only for text, email, and phone numbers. Third one is DML operations. Operations cannot be performed on search result. And along with that, it can use in classes, but not in triggers, right? And SOSL use when we don't know in which object or field the data resides. So that is again the additional point in SOSL. And we can retrieve multiple object and fields value where the object may or may not be related to each other. Right? So that is all about the SOSL. Seventh one is, what is Sandbox in Salesforce? Right? Sandbox is similar to a Salesforce production, which is used in testing, development, and training. Right? It's a similar instance, or it's a similar environment of the Salesforce production. The sandbox content and size varies depending on the type of the sandbox and the addition of the production organization that is associated with the sandbox. So there are 4 main types which are available in Sandbox. First one is developer sandbox. So refresh interval for developer sandbox is 1 day. It stores data up to 200 MB, and it also has the file storage of 200 MB. Right? It only copies metadata from the production. And Sandbox template is not available for the developer sandbox. The second one is Developer Pro Sandbox. So refresh interval for this sandbox is same like 1 day. Right? So after every 1 day, you can refresh this sandbox. Data storage is up to 1 GB, and file storage is also 1 GB for this type of sandbox. It copies metadata from the production org, and the Sandbox template is not available for this sandbox also. Right? So moving on to the next type of the sandbox, that is partial data or partial copy sandbox. Right? So for this sandbox, refresh interval is little increased. So refresh interval is 5 days for this type of sandbox. Data storage is also enhanced to 5 GB. File storage is same as a production. Right? So here you can see the difference. Data storage is 5 GB and file storage is same as the production. It will copy metadata and some sample data from the production, but for this you need to create a sandbox template. It is required for partial copy. Right? So next and the last one is full copy sandbox. Refresh interval for this sandbox is 29 days. It is same as your production org. So data storage and file storage is same as your production org. It will copy metadata and all production data from production data into it, and template is available. It's up to a developer or administrator whether they can use it or not. If they do not use, then it will copy all the data. If they use, then it will copy only selected objects data into the full copy sandbox. So this is the is all about the sandbox and different types of it. Right? Let me go to the next question. Next question is, can you edit an Apex trigger, Apex class in production environment? The answer to this question is no. It is not possible to edit class and Apex triggers directly in production environment. So it needs to be done or it needs to be edited or created first in your sandbox org. There it needs to be tested. Then if it is working as expected, then only you can deploy that into the production. So that is the Salesforce standard best practice. And Salesforce is also not allow you to create Apex trigger or Apex class in production directly. Right? So what is the advantage of this? So if you are creating anything into the sandbox, then you can always have that ability to edit or make changes into your code, and you can create a different version, and you can, once you get the expected result, you can consolidate all your code in a single uh, in a single chain set, and you can push that or deploy that into the production. So, but if you are making changes into directly into the production, or uh, though it is not possible, but it is not suggested to do those changes. But if you do direct changes into the production, but then it may cause data loss, or it may delete some records within the Salesforce production. So it's always recommended and suggested to make any small changes that includes trigger Apex class into the Sandbox first, and then deploy it into the production, right? So next one is, can you edit a Visualforce page in production environment? The question is yes, you can create a new Visualforce page in production directly, and you can edit the existing Visualforce page into the production directly. But Salesforce means, as per the standard Salesforce best practice, it is not suggested to do that, right? But Salesforce allows you to do this functionality directly into the production environment. So question number 10, what is who ID and what ID in activities? So who ID and what ID? So first thing, what is activities? So in Salesforce, activities refers to task and event object. So task and events are associated with all the standard and custom object in Salesforce. Now the question is, what is who ID and what is what ID? So who ID refers to the people, typically contact or leads, right? So if you are creating any kind of task or any kind of event on account record, that time it will allow you related to and name. So in related to, you need to means account ID will get automatically populated, account name will automatically gets populated, and in name field you need to provide either lead record or a contact record, right? So who ID refers to the people to who with them that activity is related to, and what ID refers to its related object, right? So that object could be account ID, opportunity ID, or any other custom object ID, right? So suppose if you're creating any task or any event on custom object, then what ID refers to that object's ID. Right, moving on to the next question. What is the use of writing sharing rules? Can you use sharing rules to restrict data access? So sharing rules are written to give edit access, particularly public read or write access, or public read only access to a certain individuals, certain groups in the Salesforce org. Okay, so for example, your manager, okay, so for example, managers or superior needs to be given extra credential to sales reps records in the object as compared to your or sales reps peers. So in that case, one can use sharing rules to provide additional access to those records, right? So by default, the organization-wide default for all the org are by default public read only or a private, right? So if it is public read only or private, then it will allow you to create a sharing rules. So in case if the organization-wide default is set as a public read write, in that case, it is not possible to write sharing rules. So this is again the important point. The interviewer may ask you during the interview. To give access to more records which users don't own, one can write a sharing rules. So sharing rules are used to extend the sharing access, and this access can be given to either public group or roles which are available in the Salesforce. So with that said, you can get to know answer to the second part of this question. What is the question? What is the second part of this question? Can you use sharing rules to restrict data access? So answer to this is no, because sharing rules are always used to extend the access, not to restrict the access. Right? So this is all about the sharing rules and why we use sharing rules and in which scenario we use the sharing rules. Right. Moving on to the next question. So what are the different types of object relationships in Salesforce and how you can create them? Okay, so there are different relationship such as one-to-many, many-to-many, and master detail. These are the object relationship present in the Salesforce. So what is one-to-many? So classic example of this is, so let's say we have one hospital and that hospital has a different department within it, right? So suppose, so hospital A has different departments such as ICU, NICU, and some other departments. So those are related with the one hospital, right? So hospital is one, but we have many departments within it. So that is called as a one-to-many relationship. And what is many-to-many relationship? So in many-to-many relationship, you have to have a junction object which have two master detail relationship created on that object. So let's take an example. So there are candidate 1, candidate 2, candidate 3. So there are multiple candidates in the market, and they are logging into job portal, and they have their single application, right? So that single application or single application object will be considered as a junction object. Using that object, they are applying to a different jobs which are available on that job portal. So job 1, job 2, and job 3, like that. So here the application is considered as the junction object, which is related with the job object as well and the candidate object as well. And what is master detail? So master detail is again one-to-many relationship, but in master detail, master is always this master side object should always be a standard object, right? So that is about this, and let's go to the next thing. Yeah, right. So master detail relationship. So here it is explained clearly. So it is a parent-child relationship where one parent can have multiple dependent child, right? So it controls the behavior of its dependent child object. There can be only one parent, but multiple children. So that is the concept of master detail. The main concept you need to know is that being the controlling object, the master field cannot be empty. So for example, if you are creating any detailed record or a detail side record, then master records field cannot be kept as an empty. That is always a required field. If a record or a field in the master object is deleted, the corresponding field in the dependent object are also deleted. This is called a cascade delete. For example, there is a master detail relationship between account and let's say one of the custom object. I will say it as a custom object 1. Okay, so account is the master and custom object 1 is the detail side of it, and it has a multiple records into it, and multiple records are associated with a single account. So in case tomorrow, if I delete that account record, then its related child record will also get deleted. So dependent field will inherit the owner, sharing, and security setting from the master. So in this case, so what is the account owner will be the same person will be the owner of that child record, that account's child record. So that inherits the owner and the sharing and security settings. So there is no option to write a sharing rule on the detail object in the organization-wide default. So you can define master detail relationship between two custom object or custom object and a standard object, as long as standard object is the master in the relationship. So yes, so this we have discussed earlier. So standard object should always be on the master side of the relationship, and custom object can be a child of it. But if you are creating a master detail relationship between custom object and custom object, then in that case, custom object can be a master of another custom object. Right? What is lookup relationship? So lookup relationship is same as the master detail. It is also have one-to-many relationship. Right? So unlike master detail relationship, it is not necessary to have that field populated when you create the child record. And if you delete the parent record, the child record will not get deleted. It will remain in the database. Right? Thus, the records in the child object will not be affected, and there is no cascade delete present here. Neither will be child field inherits the owner and sharing security of its parent. So yeah, so this is again the major difference. So in if there are two objects and they are related with each other with the lookup relationship, in that case, the parent object's owner can be a different person, and child records owner can be a different person, and sharing and security is also different for both the objects. What is junction object? This kind of relationship can exist when there is a need to create two master detail relationship on a single object. So two master detail relationship can be created by linking three custom objects. Here, two objects will be the master of the third object and will be dependent on both the object. In simpler word, it will be a child object for both the master object. Yeah, so there are two parent and one child within it. And the child record is called as a junction object, or it has the junction relationship with both the master records or master objects. Right? So next question is also related with the same relationship, what we have seen in the last question. So what happens to a detailed record when master record gets deleted, or what happens to a child record when parent record gets deleted? Okay, so interviewer may ask you this question in two different ways. Okay, so answer to this is if there is a master detail relationship present and someone delete the master record in the Salesforce, then its detailed record will gets deleted automatically. This is also called as a cascade delete. So interviewer may ask you what is cascade delete, then the answer will also the same, right? And on the other hand, if the objects are sharing lookup relationship within themselves, then even if someone has deleted the parent record, then the child record will not get deleted. It will remain in the Salesforce. Okay, so that is the main difference. Right. So next question is on assignment rule. On what all object assignment rules can be created. So before that, let's see what is assignment rule. So assignment rules are nothing but when particular criteria are met, in that case, we can assign that record to a queue or a user in the Salesforce. So that is called as an assignment rule. And what's the question here? On what all object assignment rules can be created? So assignment rules can be created on two objects in the Salesforce. First one is leads, and another one is case. So on these two on these two objects, assignment rules can be created. So for example, and why these assignment rules are used? To assign the leads or cases which are created automatically from website, or if they are loaded into the Salesforce via data loader or any other automatic system. So in that case, this leads and cases should get assigned to the appropriate owner. So for that purpose, assignment rules are used. And on assignment means assignment rules, you can create multiple assignment rules on leads and cases, but only one rule can be activated at the same time. So this is the next question. So next question would be, how many active assignment rules you can have in a lead or case? So the question to this answer is only one rule can be active at the same at the time. So Salesforce will allow you to create multiple assignment rules on leads and cases, but only one rule can be activated, either on that is applicable to lead and cases. What is the minimum test coverage required to trigger to deploy? So as per the standard Salesforce best practice, it is necessary to have a 75% of your Apex code is covered by unit test before you deploy that code into the production, right? And before that, all tests must be completed successfully. That is another criteria. So question number 17. What is the difference between static and dynamic dashboard in the Salesforce? So in static dashboard, they are considered as a default dashboard that are visible for any user in the system. So any user means if that report is shared with them, then they can have the access and they can see that dashboard. So that is called as a static dashboard. So dynamic dashboard shows the data tailored for a specific user. So when you create a dashboard, you can specifically provide a name of the person. So in the dashboard, so that the dashboard can be visible to everyone with respective of that person. So it is in static dashboard, it is used to show organizational wide data to set of user. And in dynamic dashboard, it is used to show single user specific data, such as a number of sales closed, leads converted, etc. It can be scheduled automatically to refresh its data. And in dynamic dashboard, there is no option to schedule it as it displays the real-time generated data, right? So it is dynamic dashboard cannot be scheduled. Interviewer may ask you, can I schedule a dynamic dashboard? So the answer to that question would be no, you cannot schedule the dynamic dashboard because it will always display a real-time generated data when you open that. But it's not about the static dashboard. Unless you refresh the static dashboard, it will not display the latest data. So in that case, you need to either schedule that or you need to run the report behind those dashboards. Then only the dashboard will get updated. Right. Next question is, what is permission set? So before that, so let's see why permission sets are used. Okay, let's understand that. So permission set are used to extend the access, right? And what are the permission set? A permission set is a collection of setting or a permission that is used to give access to a numerous tools and functions for the user, right? And you can use the permission set for a different types of user to extend functional access without changing their profiles. Yeah, this is very important. So suppose one profile is created and it has multiple permissions which are assigned. So in that case, suppose a new permission needs to be added only for one or two user, not for the entire profile. You want that access to be provided. So in that case, you can create a permission set. You can add those additional permission on the permission set, and you can assign that permission set to the specific user. Right. So it will. So instead of so if you see the next line, instead of creating a separate profile each time or every time, you could easily create a permission set and assign that to the users. Okay, so let's take an example. Sales user. So there is a sales profile and there are 10 sales user assigned to that profile. But there are two senior sales representative who need access to the marketing data or marketing related objects. So in that case, instead of making changes to the profile directly, that will allow all 10 users to have that access, and they can see marketing related data. So instead of that, the system admin or Salesforce developer can create a permission set, and on permission set they will add the marketing data permission, and then those permission set can be assigned to those two senior representatives, sales representatives, so that only two of them can have access to the marketing data. That is the classic example. What is the difference between role and profile? So profile controls the access to the object in the Salesforce org. Along with object, it will also control the application, what all application user can see, what all record type he can see. So all those permission or system level permission can be controlled using profile. And what is role? So role is mainly used to give access to the record level permission or record level access, providing the record level access. So while creating a user, profile is a required thing. Without having profile, you cannot create user. Right? Unlike in roles, roles are not required when you create a user, but it's always a suggestion, or it's always a best practice to have a role for every user. The main function of the role hierarchy is that it allows higher level users in the hierarchy to get access to the records owned by the lower users in the hierarchy. So sales manager is the best example, who get access to the records owned by his sales reps, while their peers do not get access to it. That is the main difference, right? So along with object, then record types, the profile can also control the Apex and Visualforce permission. On profile, you can add or you can edit those permission. But in role, that option is not available. It is totally for sharing the records. Okay. Let's go to the next question. So this is what are the different types of collection you have in Apex? So there are three main types. One is list, set, and maps. Okay, so what is list? A list is an ordered collection of elements distinguished by indices. And then what is set? Set is the unordered collection of elements without containing any duplicates into it. And what is map? Map is the collection of key values key value pairs where each unique key maps to a single value. Right. Number 21, what is the difference between Lightning Web Component and Lightning Component? So Lightning Components. So let's talk about the Lightning Components first. So Lightning Components are a user interface framework that is used to create application for a desktop and mobile technologies on the Salesforce. So using that, you can also create a different kind of application within the Salesforce. Lightning Web Component. What is Lightning Web Component? They were created to make it easier for those who are unfamiliar with the complexity of the Salesforce to build on the platform. Okay, so Lightning Web Component use a standardized based architecture to provide better access to a developer. Okay, so it's kind of a framework, you can say. Right. Next question is, what is the difference between workflow and a process builder? So workflow is the it is the legacy automation tool which is used in the Salesforce, and process builder is something which Salesforce has introduced recently. Okay, so let's see what are the main difference. Okay, so yeah, so workflow is the automation tool which evaluates an argument, right? And what is process builder? In process builder is also automation tool which has the various function into it, right? So workflow has the function in automation includes the field update. So workflow provide field update, sending an email alert, creating a task, and sending an outbound message. Workflow can evaluate only a single criteria before the automation is triggered or doesn't. But in process builder, using process builder, you can create records, you can update child records, you can post a chatter on the record, you can launch a flow, and you can also call the Apex. You can also call another process builder within the process builder, and you can do other things also in the process builder. So process builder evaluates multiple criteria and triggers different automations depending on the once they met the criteria. Right. So these are the main difference between workflow and process builder. Moving on to the next question. What are the actions in workflow? Right. So action in the workflow are field update. So what is field update? So field update, this will allow user to update, or user or the organization to update the field within the Salesforce. So for example, let's take an example. If my opportunity stage got dated to closed one, then I want to automatically update I want to update the amount field on the opportunity. So in that case, I can use the field update functionality of the workflow. Right. Next is task. Suppose if I want to create a task that should be assigned to a sales rep once the opportunity is not moved to the next stage for last 10 days. So in that case, I want to create a task. So for that purpose, I can use the workflow rule. So outbound message is the another functionality which Salesforce provide to send the outbound messages. So outbound messages is something you can send the message outside your local server. And email alert. So suppose if your opportunity has been lost, then I want to send email alert to that sales reps manager. So in that case, I will use the email alert option, which is provided by the Salesforce. These are the four main tasks which are available. You can either call it as a task or you can call it as an action, which are available in the workflow. So what are the different methods of batch Apex class? So batch database.batchable interface contains the three methods for the implementation. So first method is start method. So here is the standard syntax for the start method. Global database dot query locator, iterable, and then start database dot batchable context BC. Right? So execute method is the second method. So syntax for this is global void execute, database dot batchable BC list. So last one is finish method, global void finish, database dot batchable context BC. These are the different types of methods which are available in Apex class. So question number 25, what are the different ways of deployment in Salesforce? So in Salesforce, one can deploy his or her configuration changes or code changes using below four methods. First one is chain set. So chain set is the standard out-of-the-box functionality which is provided by the Salesforce. You can create the outbound chain set in the Sandbox or in the environment, and you can push that or you can deploy that chain set into the target environment, and that could be a Sandbox or a production environment. Right. So in chain set, you can add different types of fields, workflow rules, class, then triggers. You can add all those things, custom fields, layout. Using that means all the options are available, and you can create a single chain set and push it to the next higher environment to deploy that. Right. So before moving, before doing that deployment, you need to set up the connection between two orgs. So that setup you need to do under deployment settings. Okay, so second option which is available is Eclipse with the force.com IDE. This is again using this option, you can create a package and you can deploy the changes from one environment to another environment. Next one is force.com migration tool. This is ANT and Java based. So using this, you can deploy your code components and configuration from one environment to another environment. The last one is Salesforce package. This will allow you to create a package, and using that package, you can move your code configuration changes from one environment to another environment. So these are the four ways of deploying code and configuration changes to a Salesforce. So next question is, which fields are automatically indexed in Salesforce? So there are four types of fields which gets automatically indexed within the Salesforce. First one is a primary key. So primary key can be ID, name, or owner field, which are available on the object, Salesforce object. Foreign keys are like lookup or master detail relationship in the fields. The third one is audit dates, such as system mode date stamp. So this is called as an audit date. Custom fields, which are marked as the external ID or unique ID, so that can be indexed too. Moving on to the next question. What are the different ways to store various types of records in the Salesforce? Okay, so there are 5 different ways in Salesforce to store various types of records, such as images, files, and documents, right? So this kind of content or this kind of attachment you can store, okay, in the Salesforce. So there are 5 ways. First one is attachment. Next one is Google Drive. Third one is chatter file. There also you can attach images, files, and documents. Third one is libraries. You can create libraries and you can restrict those libraries access to particular users, and you can put all your images, files, and documents there, and this can be shared within the group of people or all the users in the Salesforce. So this is also very popular method of sharing and storing the documents. Right. And last one is again the attachments. So in attachment also you can attach your different files, images, and documents. Okay. Next question is, what is audit trail? So audit trail tracks the changes that are made in the organization by you and the administrator, right? So the audit trail shows the information of 20 most recent changes which are made in your organization. These things are tracked. So below things can be tracked. Date and time of the change, username of who made the changes, then what the change was. So these kind of information can be stored. So on the UI level, you will see 20 most recent changes, but Salesforce will give you the option to extract the CSV file, .csv file. So in that CSV file, you will get the information till last 6 months. So within last 6 months, someone has made any changes on the organization level, or any configuration changes he has made. So for example, someone has changed the profile level permission, or someone has updated someone's profile, or someone has changed the role of someone. So all those kind of activities or changes are tracked in the audit trail. And why audit trail is used? Audit trail is used to see who has made what changes. So basically, administrator makes some changes, and if that does not go well, so using that audit trail, they can revert the changes back to what it was previously before making the changes. So for that purpose, also audit trail is used. Right. Moving on to the next question. What are the 3 types of bindings used in Visualforce? What does each refers to? So there are 3 types of bindings which are available in the Salesforce, and that's being used in a Visualforce. Right. First one is data binding. So these bindings refer to the data set in the controller. Right. Next one is action binding. So this binding refers to the action methods in the controller. And the third one is component binding. This binding refers to another Visualforce component. So the data binding and action binding are most commonly used in every Visualforce page. So yeah, so this is commonly asked question. So what kind of bindings are used most commonly in the Visualforce page? Then your action, so your answer would be data binding and action binding. Moving on to the last question. Can you have a roll-up summary field in the case of master detail relationship? Yes. So answer to this question is yes. If there is a master detail relationship present, then Salesforce will allow you to create a roll-up summary field. Right? But the same functionality is not available when the object has the lookup relationship within themselves. Right? So this is because roll-up summary field is used to display value in the master record based on the value of the set, value of a set of fields in the detailed record. So that's why master detail relationship allow you to create a roll-up summary field. So using roll-up summary, what all calculation you can do? So that is the next question. Okay, so using roll-up summary means using roll-up summary, you can do a count. you can do a sum, you can do a minimum, that is, and the last one is a maximum. So what is count? So count is something which will count the records, related records. So for example, there are two custom objects, object A and object B. Okay, so object A is a master, and on a master record, I want to display how many detailed record or a child record present under object A. So in that case, I will use the count functionality of the roll-up summary, and that will give me the count of the child record. And what is sum? So sum is something, let's take an example of account and opportunity. So opportunity, or let's take an account and some other custom object. Okay, let's say it's a revenue object, and there is a account is on the master side and revenue is on the detail side of the relationship. And on master record, that is on account record, I want to display the sum of all the revenue. Okay, so there are 5 revenue on account A, and all those 5 revenue has some amount within it. So I want to do a sum of all those revenue field. Then in that case, I will use some functionality of a roll-up summary field, and I can display that calculation. Okay, so similar way we can display minimum and maximum of the revenue. So which record has a minimum revenue, and what is the minimum revenue out of 5 records, and what is the maximum revenue of the 5 records, that we can do using the minimum and maximum functionality which is available in the roll-up summary field. Yeah, so that is all about the roll-up summary, which are available in the master data relationship only. Okay, so with that say, I would like to thank you all